The Carolina Panthers Week 2 preseason showdown against the New York Giants unfortunately ended in a loss 21-19, but it did almost come down to the wire for anybody that cared to watch that deeply into the game. In this video, I'm going to give you all this week's winners and losers from this game as it pertains to my Carolina Panthers, and we're going to get into that and many other things right after this.
I'm from the foe, you dig?
Welcome to The Way I See It with Jamario Rashad. This is a Carolina Panthers fan channel. Please do me a favor by hitting the like button, and please make sure you subscribe as I am on my road to 3K, trying to make sure my channel continues to grow before these games get started very, very soon. Now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and get to this Week 2 preseason review. So my initial thoughts on this game, my initial takeaways as soon as the clock struck zeros were, this was not anywhere near as bad as last week. It was definitely an improvement, but I cannot say that it was too encouraging in my opinion. We still struggled on both sides of the ball, but most specifically on the defensive side of the ball. This is the second week in a row that the quote-unquote starting defense has got out there. I know it's minus our stalwart pass rushers. We didn't have Brian Burns, Justin Houston, and Derrick Brown didn't play this game. But this is the second week in a row that the starting unit has not put up any resistance towards the starting offense on the other side of the ball whatsoever. They have just drove right down the field, gotten into the end zone, and it was just crazy. But I have to attribute a lot of that to I am looking at Ejiro, Evero. I am looking at you, EJ, because I know that this is preseason and we are supposedly playing vanilla, but these coverages that you are throwing out there and putting our defensive backs in the position to play has just absolutely been putrid for the second week in a row. I understand that we don't want to show all of our stuff, but we have to at least be able to put our players in position to make plays. What Darren Waller did to this starting defense on that first drive of the game is absolutely embarrassing. He had his way with this team. I understand that Von Bell had the hit and dislodged the ball, but if he had not dislodged the ball, that was still another first down. That was still them marching down the field, and all we had to applaud was a big hit. Luckily, he did knock the ball out, but I do need to see a little bit more from the play calling of an Ejiro Evero, because it is hard for me to believe that week after week we can stack these like bad performances on top of each other, but as soon as week 1 gets here, we'll be able to just flip the switch and go into regular season mode after we've looked this terrible in the preseason. I find that hard to believe. So next week during the dress rehearsal game, at least like show me a little bit of something. I want to see the defense, that starting defense, at least put up some type of resistance if we choose to defer. If we win the coin toss, defer again, or if we just so happen to go on defense by hook or by crook, whatever way. Next week, I want to see the defense. Hopefully, it doesn't have to be a 3 and out, but don't let them cross midfield. Don't let them score any points. Don't even allow them to get in field goal position, because I just need to see that Ejiro Evero system is working, like at least a little bit, man. But my final thought coming away from it is that after this week, I am going to be looking very closely next week at the differences between the offense in the first half and the second half, as there may be some controversy behind who needs to be calling the offensive plays. This is the second week in a row that in the first half of the game, the offense has just been absolutely stalled out. Although we did have one good drive that was unfortunately moved back and back and back further and further because of our inability to block and our continuous penalties that we just kept on getting. But once we came back out of halftime and the second half began, and Thomas Brown, offensive coordinator Thomas Brown, got the play calling duties, you could see an immediate transition into a more efficient offense. You could see less vanilla play calling taking place. You could see the quarterback who was playing at the time, in Matt Corral, start to begin to get a lot more comfortable in the pocket, start to make more plays. You could see the offense getting a lot more juice when you had the infusion of the Thomas Brown play calling. So if that continues to be a prominent thing throughout this preseason, I think depending on how our first 4 games of the season go, there may be some early season controversy as to who needs to be calling these plays, because as of right now, or as of today, Thomas Brown definitely out called Frank Reich on the offensive side of the ball. But those are my initial thoughts on the game, man. And now we are going to move into this week's winners and losers, man. First up, we have Bryce Young. This was another very good showing from Bryce Young, despite the offensive line's inability to block for him at times. Bryce Young was accurate. His decision making was on point, and even when it looked like he made a decision on that downfield pass, if you look at the tape, when you go back and actually look at what transpired on that play, you will see that Jonathan Mingo actually got the wrong key or made the wrong read himself, stopped on his route, and if he had continued as Bryce Young read it, there could have been a touchdown because there was a lot of green grass in front of him. But Bryce Young, despite being pressured, despite being hit, he has stayed very poised. He has not gotten antsy, and he continues to be accurate, which just gives me which just indicates to me that he is ready to go week by week. He is getting better by better, and once the season starts and he's no longer just taken off the field after 2 series and the team actually lets him get cooking, I think Bryce Young will start to click. That supercomputer that is his mind will start working, and he is going to be an absolute beast in his rookie season, despite how the overall team record turns out in the end, man. But the second standout player aside from Bryce Young that popped off the screen the most to me this week is Amari Barno, who has now done this for the second week in a row. If the key observant eyes noticed that this week Amari Barno actually got the start opposite of I think it was still Yetur Gross-Matos on the other side, but Amari Barno got the start. He provided consistent, I'm not going to say constant, consistent pass rush pressure when he was on the field. He did not put up any sacks in the stat sheet, but if you were watching the game, I believe that he should have been credited with at least 2 sacks. He provided the pressure that actually knocked the opposing team's quarterback, got him out of the pocket, got him stumbling on the ground, and we had another player come up and just get a sack in that spot that was actually should have been a half a sack because Amari Barno started that. And then we have the other one where Barno actually just beat his man as he did last week, got to the quarterback, tackled him to the ground, but unfortunately, 1 in 1,000 chance the quarterback actually rolls on him, his knee or elbow doesn't hit the ground, he gets up and he runs for 2 yards. But in my eyes, those are 2 separate situations where Amari Barno proves that he and his skill set and that tremendous speed that he possesses is enough right now in certain situations to get to the opposing team's quarterback and to make an impact on this team early, so much more so than we've seen out of the likes of, a Gross-Matos or a Kobe Jones. Barno has flashed for the second week in a row, and he is, of course, a winner. Now, the third player we are going to talk about, in my opinion, has arguably been the second best rookie in 2 games so far, that being outside linebacker DJ Johnson. DJ Johnson has not been put in position on the outside in pass rush positions for us to actually see what he does or what he can do in terms of getting in the backfield and actually what that closing speed and that size and those intangibles can do in terms of pass rush ability, because it seems Evero, defensive coordinator Ejiro Evero, is going to continue throughout this preseason, making him prove his worth in the run defense game. Each and every play that DJ Johnson gets out there, I don't know personally if I have seen him make any mistakes. He has been asked to set the edge about just about every play. He has also been asked to make open field tackles, to play contain, and he has done all of these things at a very high level, but he has not had any splash plays because it all ultimately results in either gang tackling or there just being so many jerseys around the ball that you can't really make out in real time who's responsible for making those plays. But when you look at it, when you look at the all 22 and you go back and you actually look at the film, DJ Johnson has been has been above average at everything that Evero has asked him to do, and hopefully in this next preseason game he has done enough in the run defense to earn the opportunity to rush the quarterback a few times, as many Carolina Panthers fans, including myself, have been clamoring to get the opportunity to see him do, man. Now I know we lost, but this week was a big improvement on last week. So in my opinion, we definitely had some winners, man. So the next player we're going to discuss is yet another rookie player in offensive guard Chandler Zavala, who stepped in and played his first snaps of the preseason after missing a few weeks in training camp, after just coming up to speed over the last week or so, missing so much time with a lingering injury. Aside from the one penalty that got a play called on Zavala early in the game, I believe he arguably was the most steady offensive lineman throughout the game. As if you juxtapose that with what we seen last week, with Michael Jordan being in that spot and him just being a complete turnstile, just allowing whoever had the ball in their hand to just get killed back there. Chandler Zavala was a lot more steady in his first official snaps in the NFL, be it preseason. He held his own, and once he got into rhythm, he showed that he is going to be a valuable piece that at this point in time, in my mind right now, is probably going to be slotted in at that right guard position after a performance like in which he put on like yesterday. So Chandler Zavala is definitely a winner for this week, and I can see great things for him in the future, man. But the last player I want to talk about in terms of winners for this week is running back Raheem Blackshear. There are so many people throughout Carolina Panthers Nation that right now, and even as it lingered on last season, feel as though Raheem Blackshear deserves to be the running back 2 over Chuba Hubbard, who is currently slotted in that position right now on the depth chart, because of the juice that he brings and the constant playmaking that we see when he gets the ball in his hand. Now, last week, we seen Raheem Mostert being used primarily as a kick returner as well as a gunner, where he showed that he is valuable there as well, transitioning Amari Barno away from that, who played that position with his tremendous size last season, who is now going to spend a lot more time just rushing the passer and being an actual defensive player. Raheem Blackshear not only showed his versatility being on special teams, but when he got the ball in his hands, he scored the very first touchdown of the preseason that we were able to score all year so far, and he led the team in average yards per carry. And that just continues to just push the Chuba Hubbard truthers deep into a dark tunnel, saying, man, I'm not saying I hope he does bad, but man, hey, Blackshear's doing pretty good, man. So for this week, I continue to see tremendous improvement from Raheem Blackshear, and he might just be fighting to have that RB2, RB3 spot on the depth chart, man. So Raheem Blackshear is a winner for this week. Now, that concludes our winner. So you all know exactly what that means. It is time to discuss the losers of this week. Now, we do not have as many losers as we do winners, because I'm not going to just sit up here and pile on and just be mean. I do try to be as objective as I possibly can. So the first loser that we are going to discuss this week is unfortunately somebody that I have been hyping up a lot over this offseason, be it wide receiver Laviska Shenault. Now, there has been a lot of speculation that Shenault is just in for somewhat of an all-star season, being used as a gadget guy all over the field, being in the backfield, taking carries, not only being used as a wide receiver, potentially being used on the kicker punt return game. There is just so much hope and just so much ambition for what we would see Laviska Shenault's position ultimately transform into this year. But after watching 2 preseason games, I don't know if this is just going to be another thing that gets chalked up to being, oh, this is just vanilla play calling, this or that. But even when the 3s and 4s got in the game yesterday, Laviska Shenault was still not being targeted pretty much at all. I think he probably got maybe 1 target, but I don't know if he has any catches all preseason. He hasn't been in with the starters, not even the 2s, and when he gets on the field, he hasn't even been the primary receiver there, as Shi Smith and Matt Corral were the ones that did establish somewhat of a wavelength throughout this game in the second half. You didn't even see Laviska Shenault at all. So with our hopes being as high as they've been set this offseason, unfortunately, if the evidence that we've gotten as of late, be it this last preseason game and the first, this offensive coaching staff, despite what they've said, do not necessarily have a true understanding of how they want to use Laviska Shenault, which is unfortunate in my eyes because I don't know how much of that is on him or how much of that is on them. But whichever one be the case, week 2 preseason 2023, Laviska Shenault is unfortunately a loser for this week. Now, the next player we are going to discuss is tight end Ian Thomas, who had one of the most damning stat lines that I've seen in quite a long time. Ian Thomas had 2 catches for -3 yards. He averaged -1.5 yards per catch. Whoever called that asinine screenplay to one of the slowest players that we have on the field deserved to have the clipboard knocked out of their hand and their hat slapped off their head whenever they called that bullshit that I saw on my screen. I cannot remember if it was the first or second half, so I don't know if it was Reich or Thomas Brown, but that was the worst play call that I've seen all preseason. Don't do that bullshit again. Ian Thomas is in his 6th year with this team. He does not have any juice. He does not show any flashes. He is nothing more than a glorified offensive lineman that is here strictly to block. And as the season progresses, as these years go on, my ambition, my trust, my hope, my care for this guy has all deteriorated to just about 0. So yes, it is only preseason, but I'm saying this with seriousness from the bottom of my heart. Ian Thomas is a loser, not only this preseason, but for this entire season. Coach, do not put that man back on the field, please, and thank you. So next, we move into a guy that, man, I don't know what to say anymore, man. Like, he gets the opportunities. Nobody is holding him back. It's not the coaching staff. It's not anybody else. It is him and his inability or his just lack of getting better over his few years in the league. I am talking about outside linebacker, edge rusher, Ejiro Gross-Matos, who yet again got the start this week, played a significant number of snaps, but if you look at the stat sheet, he didn't register a single stat because he could never ever find his way to be around the ball. In pass rush situations, he is stonewalled by any tackle that you put in front of him. When it comes to run defense, he is getting clean, pushed out of the way when that is perceived to be something that he is good at. He is not DJ Johnson. Let me just say that Ejiro Gross-Matos continues to struggle game after game, and at this point, with the scheme change and his entire position changing, he's pretty much useless at this point in his career. He's getting paid a second-round pick salary. There is no reason whatsoever why he should continue to be on this team and get this many opportunities over guys like Amari Barno, who are showing flashes, over guys who like Marquise Haynes, who has consistently been better than him since he's been drafted. Ejiro Gross-Matos, yet again, in Week 2 preseason 2023, is a loser for the Carolina Panthers. And finally, I just have to harken back onto something that I said in my initial thoughts, and that being that I need to see more from Ejiro, Evero. The starters have played absolutely ass in back-to-back weeks, and we have not been able to stop anything pretty much. Like the Jets last week went up and down the field on us with Zach Wilson, and then we let Vanilla Vic do the same thing this week. Like, come on, that is Daniel Jones that just absolutely chopped us up, man. So we need to see more. I personally need to see what this scheme change was for, who it is benefiting, how it is benefiting this team in any way, shape, or form. And if you are trying to convince me that the only time it is going to be effective is when we get Brian Burns and Justin Houston on the field, I will say that that does not bring me any type of peace as well, because that just means that we're one injury away from just being effed the entire season. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I need to see more from EJ. Please show me more. I need this defense to be better in this dress rehearsal game. I know that week 1, we're just trying to get there healthy, but just show me that if we get there healthy, we stand a chance of not getting our asses whooped when we arrive, man. But those are my thoughts on week 2 of the NFL preseason, the winners, the losers, my initial thoughts on how everything went down, man. You all leave your comments down below in the comment section, and I will be sure to chop it up with you there. How did you feel the game went? What did you think about Frank Reich's play calling as opposed to Thomas Brown's play calling? How do you feel about Ejiro, Evero, man? What are we saying? What is going on with the starters, man? How did Bryce look? Whatever you all think, leave that down in the comment section, and as I said, I will get back with you. I am Jamario Rashad. This is the way I see it, and I'm out. Peace.